Afternoon, Paul. You had mentioned Pierre-Luc you were going to see once he gets through, or if he gets through a practice today. Is this a case you'll wait till tomorrow to make any kind of final decision?
Yeah, he got through it. I mean, it's not a long practice today because we're playing fairly heavy schedule, but yeah, he got through today and he looked good. So we'll see how he comes back tomorrow.
Is it, just to follow up, is it possible when he comes back in, would you try and ease him in and maybe like in a different role, or would you want him sort of full board?
There's a bunch of things that we're looking at, and one would be the wing, little different kind of wear and tear down low, but it'll be more minutes. Like I won't have any concern really about his body at that point. I'll monitor his minutes a little bit.
We'll go next to Scott Billick from the Winnipeg Sun.
Hey, Paul. Going back a little bit to the whole inconsistent versus consistency kind of talk around the team and other teams in the NHL right now. But I'm kind of wondering, is that a byproduct, I suppose, of just the schedule, playing teams over and over again, sort of like a playoff series where you can't, there's adjustments made.
Right.
Every game's different. You are playing the same team, but you're playing a team that's now kind of tailoring their game to each other.
Yeah.
Does that?
I mean, it's possible. The way I would look at it is, these games are different, and it's the mentality of not being an 82 game schedule. There is that playoff feel to them, and in a lot of playoff games, one team doesn't control the play the entire time. And there's a real heavy push. So at the 10-minute mark, I thought of the second period, they pushed real hard on us, and we had a hard time handling them. And then we were much better kind of in the third at parts. So the risk changes for sure. The team that's down pushes, I feel, way harder, a lot more risk. I mean, you saw their D so active last night in a 1-goal game, where sometimes over an 82 game schedule, in that first 20 games, you're so kind of setting your foundation that you're not kind of allowing that risk to be off the charts, right? Here, this is obviously not game 7, but there's certainly a finality and an importance in each game that when you're down, I find that the teams are pushing really hard.
We'll go next to Kelly Moore from CB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Paul, you just mentioned how active Vancouver's D was last night. Did a little bit of homework, and you were up near season highs and block shots, forced missed shots. But where it really stood out was 13 block shots by the forwards. Was that part and parcel with last night's game because of that Vancouver defense?
Because they move so much, you almost have to give a bit of ice. If you're not right on the puck carrier and there's so much motion kind of crossing in zone, you have to sit off it a bit to get the read, to make sure then you're not out of the lane. They don't have a clear line to the net, but you're in the lane. You have a better chance to being in the lane. They got more zone time. And on a positive note, we blocked a lot of shots.
I'll go next to Ken Weeb from Sports Center. Go ahead, Weaver.
Thanks, Gregor. Afternoon, Paul. Given how well that Lauren has played in Vancouver, do you ever give a consideration going back to back, or is the schedule just not?
Yeah, it wouldn't be a schedule thing. I mean, you would possibly consider that if, Connor wasn't happy with his game, or you didn't like where he was at. And then, LB certainly would deserve to go back to back, but we go back 2 games, and I know they scored 5, but he saw 45 shots against Edmonton. Connor did, and that's a big night for him. So we don't want to take either of these guys out of the rhythm. So that almost, the idea of riding the hot guy, we've got 2 really good goalies playing very well now. So there's not that urgency to do it.
I'll go back to Scott Billick from the Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Paul, I'm going to try and fit 2 questions in here, but just going back to your first round on the inconsistency part, how much have you noticed kind of the emotional toll that this season has taken so far? And then the second question would be, start with that one. I'll try and get.
I don't feel it, Scott. Like I think we've come out ready, energized. I think even the game the other night, our first 4 shifts off the bench in Edmonton are really good, and they banged those 2 in, but we didn't sag in that game. So I think you see that emotional toll, and you're going to see it next month, right? When we play 28 and 52, the team, and so everybody's going to play a heavy schedule. The team that gets down maybe 3-1, where there's energy and fight back right now, when you're playing that schedule, it may be tough to do. So I think the inconsistency, I think, is a function of all the games. I don't know that I've seen a team that's been kind of dominant. And that goes to, the leading team in our division. Toronto has a 5-1 lead, right? So I don't know that there's that kind of consistent hockey that you're seeing.
I'll go back to Mike McIntyre from the Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Paul, we're seeing all kinds of unusual things this season due to obviously circumstances. Are you going to be texting your buddy Pete Dubois to give him any advice on how to handle an 8-hour intermission?
Yeah, that's a first. No, I might send him one. No, I'm going to leave him alone. But that it's too bad because like the visuals of that game before it started were just absolutely spectacular, right? And it'll be talked about, right? The difficulty with the ice, and that unfortunately will become the story. But it was so beautiful to start, and it looks so good, and it's too bad they couldn't run it straight through.
Just a couple more for Coach. We'll go to Kelly Moore from CJOB. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hey, Paul, didn't get a chance to see exactly how it happened, just kind of the aftermath, but going back to last night and the little ruckus along the wall there was one point where I saw Derek Forbort's head kind of snap back, and that was just before he delivered the two cross checks. But then I also saw Neil kind of snap back and his stick kind of went flying. Were any of those two situations, can we correlate them with what happened with Derek paying a little extra?
Yeah, a little bit of a high hit on the other side of the ice. But that's just, I guess it looks like a big deal because we don't see it much anymore. But I didn't think about it again after the game, right? That stuff used to be the scrums. I mean, just even go back to our Nashville series a few years ago. I mean, there was almost one of those in front of the net on every stoppage of play. So I don't think you'll see any carryover from it.
And final question to Scott Billick. Go ahead, Scott.
Second half of my two-parter, Paul. Well, and it's different than the first two. You talked last night after the game about how your team accepted the game, and I was hoping you could expand on what that means, and in the course of a game or throughout a season.
Right. So if you go back to our Edmonton at home, and then Van at home, we never made the transition in styles of game for me. And that's what the result was against Van. And I thought we did a much better job. I mean, there's still parts of our game that we want more of. We didn't generate as much as I'd like. The slot was open a little more than you'd want. But we were under the puck more. We didn't cheat the game. We weren't trying to stretch that game out because it wasn't going to end up well if we did. And I thought we accepted that. We're going to have to grind this thing from one end to the other. Their back pressure is very, very good. Their checking is good. They're hard on sticks. They dump an awful lot of pucks, right? Almost everything through the neutral zone, unless we gave them a bunch of ice or they had full control, was in behind our D, and it was a heavy, heavy forecheck. So I thought we did a reasonably good job of coming back and supporting our D and supporting the breakout. So we accepted that part of the game.